please hit that subscribe button. Hey everybody, better suited to win the Stanley Cup this season. If you are new to the channel, Washington Capitals, the Boston Bruins.
Locked on and he scored! And we're live. Hey everybody. So today I want to talk about something that has really been frustrating, especially over the last few years. And it's something that just really gets under my skin as a hockey fan, and that is the use of the term bust when talking about, young players and draft picks and where they were drafted. And yesterday, Hot Take Hockey did a fantastic video about Jesperi Kotkaniemi and why he is not a bust, and how he's only 19 years old, and it's way too early to be making a judgment on him. And I'm going to link to that video up here. It will come up here. So if you want to go and watch that, definitely do that. But I want to talk about just not necessarily one specific player, but just people calling players busts in general, and just the use of the term bust, because it is so frustrating when someone is 18, 19, 20 years old, and fans are already calling them a bust and saying, it was a waste of a pick. And it makes zero sense. Jack Hughes is obviously the number one person that we, to talk about with this. So many people are calling Jack Hughes a bust because he was obviously taken first overall in last year's draft. And he only had 21 points this year with the New Jersey Devils. And everyone is all over Jack Hughes, saying that he's trash, saying that he's a bust, who's a waste of a pick. He's a kid. I don't understand. He's a kid. He's literally a teenager. He is 18 years old. Not every player is going to come into the league and be Connor McDavid. Not every player is going to come into the league and be Austin Matthews. In fact, that is rare. That is the exception. That is what usually doesn't happen. I don't know. The league has gotten so young over the last 5 to 10 years, and the expectations on these top picks, guys drafted in the top 5, are so high to just immediately come in and be a superstar right away. It's unrealistic. It doesn't happen that often. And it's absurd to hear people calling players at 18 and 19 years old a bust. A player doesn't reach their prime in the NHL until they're 25, 26, 27 years old. Jack Hughes is almost 10 years away from his prime. He is 7 or 8 years at least away from his prime. How do you know he's a bust? How do you know how good he's going to be 7 or 8 years down the road from now? He could be the best player in the league 8 years from now. We don't know. How is he a bust? Because he had a bad rookie season? Who cares? He's on a garbage team. You could say you could say it about so many players. Like, he's a kid. Capo Caco is 19 years old. He only had 23 points his rookie season. Second overall pick last year. That doesn't make him a bust. We don't know how he's going to be when he's 25 or 26 or 27. I think he's going to end up being a really good top 6 forward. I think Jack Hughes is going to end up being a number 1 center. That's not a bust. That is not a bust. Just because a player doesn't come in and is immediately a superstar the way that Sidney Crosby and Alex Ovechkin were, and the way that Connor McDavid and Austin Matthews and Patrick Laine have been. Even, Laine's had some rough seasons in there. It's mind-boggling to me to hear people throw this word bust around before these kids even get a chance. What happened to the idea of player development? Some players need to develop. They need to grow. They need to gain experience before they're going to reach that superstar level. They're not just going to come in and be superstars out of the gate. That's not the way it works. These are teenagers playing against the best hockey players in the world. Some guys don't make the NHL until they're 22, 23, or 24 years old. These guys are playing regular minutes at the NHL level at 18 years old. And you're going to call them a bust? Are you kidding me? A bust is when someone has had years of experience and years of opportunities to live up to that draft status and reach that level, and they never do. You can't call anyone a bust before they've been given 4 or 5 years of NHL experience. You can't, because you don't know. You don't know how they're going to turn out. Nobody is a bust until they've had 4 or 5 years of NHL opportunity and NHL experience, or at least opportunity to make the NHL. And if they never do, then they're a bust. If they never live up to that status after playing, 400 career games, sure, then they're a bust. You can't call someone a bust after 1 or 2 years. It makes zero sense. Some players need development. Some players need to continue to grow. Some players need to grow into their bodies. When you're 18 years old, especially if you're a smaller player, like Jack Hughes is a smaller player, you need that time to continue to grow. I mean, God, he might not be done growing until he's 21 or 22 years old. He could still be 3 or 4 years away of just growing just naturally as a human, never mind as a hockey player. And then you add in weight training and you add in, all the fitness and nutrition of an NHL team on top of that. Jack Hughes is going to be a hell of a lot better 3 or 4 years from now than he is right now. That doesn't make him a bust. You want to know who's a bust? Alexander Daigle is a bust. He was a bust. He got 616 NHL games and never ever came close to living up to his draft status. That is a bust, 100%. Patrick Stefan is a bust. He played 455 games in the NHL and never came close to living up to being a first overall pick. All right, he was given the ample opportunity over the course of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years to make it in the NHL, and he couldn't make it. Nail Yakupov is a bust, and the biggest draft bust in recent memory. He was given the opportunity in 350 games over a 6-year period in the NHL to become an NHL regular and to become the level of player that he was supposed to be as a first overall draft pick, and he never did. He was given 6 years. That is a bust. If you are given 5 or 6 years to do it and you never live up to it, that is a bust. But you can't call a player a bust after 1 or 2 seasons. I've legitimately seen people online, on Twitter, calling Rasmus Dahlin a bust. Are you shitting me? Are you shitting me? He's a 20-year-old defenseman on one of the worst teams in the league, and he's had 40-plus points in both of his NHL seasons. That is not a bust. I don't care where you're drafted. If you're a 40-point defenseman, you are not a bust. If you're a 40-point defenseman at 20 years old, and defensemen take longer to develop than forwards anyway, you are not a bust. Jack Hughes is 18 years old. He only had 21 points his first year. He was on a terrible team, one of the worst in the league, and he's 5'11", 170 pounds. He hasn't even grown into his body yet. That is not a bust. Capo Caco is not a bust. He's 19 years old. Sure, he only had 23 points this season. You don't think he's going to get better over the next 3 to 4 years? It is unbelievable to me to see people throwing this bust word around on everybody who doesn't come into the league and immediately play at an all-star level. If you're not Connor McDavid, if you're not Jack Eichel, if you're not Austin Matthews or Patrick Laine, or these guys who came right into the league and were mature for their ages and just able to immediately produce and play at an extremely high level, if you're not one of them, which are actually overall very rare and does not happen all that often, you're garbage. You're junk. You're a bust. You're a waste of a draft pick. It's wrong. It's stupid. It's just downright stupid. These guys are not busts. Nobody under the age of 20 is a bust. Because they, quite honestly, probably shouldn't even be playing in the NHL to begin with. They should be still playing in junior. They should be playing in the AHL. They should be playing in a lower league where they can develop. The fact that they're even in the NHL makes them not a bust. I mean, it's unreal to me, these kids playing with the best players in the world in the NHL, and then people are going to go out and say that they're not that good or they're not worth their draft status. Are you kidding me? You have to give these kids a chance to grow, to develop. I don't understand what has happened to the idea of player development over the last 5 to 10 years. It's non-existent now. It's you better be good right away or you're worthless. You're good right away or you're worthless. It makes zero. I mean, that's from a fan's perspective. Teams still understand player development, and they still try and grow their rookies the right way, at least for the most part. But from a fan perspective, the player development is dead. People don't understand it anymore, and I don't get it at all. You have to give these kids a chance to grow into their bodies, to learn at the NHL level, to maybe learn some more at a lower level first, before throwing them into the action at the NHL level, and give them a chance to develop into the player that they're supposed to be as a top 5 draft pick. Not every player is going to come into the league right away and play at an all-star level. It's just not realistic. And it's not going to happen, and it's never going to happen. I don't care how good the junior leagues get. I don't care how good the European leagues are that these kids are playing in. The NHL is a whole new ball game for everybody. I don't care if you're 30 years old, if you're 20 years old, if you're 18. The NHL is a whole new ball game for everybody when they enter this league. It's the best league in the world by far. And it makes no sense to me to see people just talking all this trash about these young kids who haven't even had a chance to fully grow their bodies yet. Never mind learn to play at the NHL level, and they're already just trashing them and calling them busts. It makes zero sense to me. I get so mad about it, and it's so frustrating. You can start throwing the bust word around when somebody's 23, 24, 25. They've played multiple years in the NHL or haven't made the NHL yet in some cases at that age. Then you can start throwing the bust word around. And you're probably right. If they're 23, 24 and aren't in the NHL yet, or if they're 23 and 24 and have not come close to living up to their draft status, then yeah, they're probably a bust, and they're probably going to be. We've seen a few late bloomers here and there. It doesn't happen all that often, but from time to time we've seen a few late bloomers where at 25, 26-ish, all of a sudden they burst out and they start playing really well. You can't call a kid a bust if he's under 20, if he's 20 years old or under. If you haven't had at least 4 or 5 years to grow at the NHL level, then it's too soon to call them a bust. It's just way too soon to call them a bust. It makes no sense, and it makes me really, really mad. Players don't hit their prime until they're 25, 26, 27 years old. And sure, you can maybe see it coming. You can see it along the way. But calling a kid a bust after his rookie season is an absolute joke. And it makes you look like a clown, honestly. It's an absolute joke. An 18-year-old you have no idea how they're going to be at 23. You have no idea how they're going to be at 25 or 26. It's an absolute joke. So people need to stop with the bust word until players are given an ample opportunity, have years to make it, have years to become the player that they're supposed to be, to develop. And then if they don't do it, then sure, yeah, they're a bust. And we've seen plenty of busts throughout the years in the NHL. But you cannot be calling an 18 or 19-year-old kid a bust. It's an absolute joke. You have no idea how they're going to actually turn out. And it's so frustrating. It's so frustrating. Anyone calling Jack Hughes a bust right now, legitimately saying he's a bust, is an absolute joke. I think he's going to be a number 1 center. That is not a bust. Just because he's not a number 1 center at 18 years old doesn't mean that he's a bust. If he's 25 and he's not a number 1 center yet, then yeah, you throw the bust tag on him, and you probably should have picked someone else with that first pick. Kirby Doc or Capo Caco or somebody else should have gone with that first pick. Jack Hughes isn't 25 yet. We don't know how he's going to turn out. Maybe he becomes a point-per-game player. Maybe he becomes a point-per-game player down the road, and then all the people that after one bad season or one slow start into his rookie season, that all of a sudden he was a waste of a pick. It's mind-boggling. I could go on for hours about this. It's so frustrating, but people need to stop with the bust, especially on kids, on teenagers, on people in their first, second, or third year in the league. It's way too soon at that point to be calling anybody a bust. It's way too soon. So anyone calling Darlene, Hughes, Capo, Kako, any of those guys, Kotkaniemi, it's way too soon. Way too soon to be dropping the bust word. Give these kids a chance. Please understand player development and the fact that not everybody is a superstar right away. And please give these kids a chance. With that, like, comment, share, subscribe, follow on social media. All those links are down in the description. If you'd like to further support the channel, the links to our Patreon and merchandise store are down in the description as well. Keep spreading the word about this channel. Let's keep this thing growing. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll talk to you guys soon.